The massive crystal towers of Nexus Prime stretched into the purple sky like frozen lightning. Inside the largest tower, 12 different alien species sat in a perfect circle. Each one looked down at the single human standing in the center of the room. The human wore a simple black suit and stood straight, but his hands shook slightly. Hyunwoo Kim had been Earth's best diplomat for 20 years. He had talked his way out of trade wars, stopped 3 different conflicts, and made peace between enemies. But today, he felt very small. The aliens around him were huge, strange, and angry. Some had too many eyes. Others had skin like metal or rock. All of them hated humans. "The charges are simple," said Thex Moran, the head judge. His voice sounded like grinding stone. He was 10 feet tall with gray skin that looked like armor. 4 red eyes burned as he looked down at Hyunwoo. "Humans are too violent. They learn too fast. They do not follow our rules." Hyunwoo tried to speak, but Thex Moran raised one massive hand. "We have seen what your species does. In 50 years, you went from simple space travel to ships that rival our own. You fight wars with weapons we have never seen. You refuse to accept your place in the galaxy." From the viewing area above, Dr. So-Young Park watched with growing fear. She was Earth's top scientist who studied alien life. She had spent 5 years learning alien languages and customs. She knew this trial was not fair. The Council had decided Earth's fate before the trial even started. "The human species spreads too quickly," continued Velnash, another judge. "This one looked like a giant insect with wings that sparkled like jewels. They take resources that should belong to older, wiser species. They ask too many questions. They want to know things that are not for them to know." Hyunwoo finally found his voice. "We came to the galaxy in peace. We shared our technology. We helped other species solve problems. We never attacked anyone who did not attack us first." "That is the problem," said Morthek, a judge who looked like a walking tree made of metal. "You help species that should stay weak. You give them ideas about freedom and progress. You make them think they can be equal to us." The other judges nodded. So-Young felt sick as she watched. The trial was really about fear. The Council was afraid of humans, not because humans were evil, but because humans showed other species that the Council was not all-powerful. "We have made our decision," Thex Moran announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. "The human species is too dangerous to remain free in the galaxy. You will return to your home system. We will place a barrier around your sun. You will never leave. You will never contact other species. You will stay there until you learn your place." Hyunwoo stepped forward. "You cannot do this. We have rights. We have treaties with other species." "You have no rights here," Velnash buzzed. "Treaties are for civilized species. You are wild animals that need to be caged." "What about the other species that want to trade with us?" Hyunwoo asked. "What about the Zephyrians? They asked for our help with their sick children. What about the Velthari? We were helping them clean their poisoned oceans." "They will learn to survive without you," Morthek said. "Or they will not. That is not our concern." The vote was quick and unanimous. 12 species voted to imprison humanity forever. 0 voted against it. The council acted like they were doing the galaxy a favor. As the judges left, So Young ran down to meet Hyun-woo. His face was pale and his hands were no longer shaking. Now they were clenched into fists. "They planned this from the beginning," he said quietly. "This was never a trial. It was a sentencing." "What do we do now?" So Young asked. Hyun-woo looked up at the crystal towers around them. "We go home. We tell our people what happened. And we prepare. Prepare for what? For whatever comes next." The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, news of the sentence spread across the galaxy. Some species celebrated. They thought the dangerous humans were finally contained. Other species worried. They had been working with humans on important projects. Now those projects would never be finished. On the 3rd planet of the Zephyrian system, a mother held her sick child and wept. Human doctors had been working on a cure for the disease that was killing Zephyrian children. Now those doctors would never return. On Velthari Prime, the crystal beings watched their purple oceans turn darker with poison. Human scientists had found a way to clean the water, but now the knowledge would die with them. In the outer rim territories, smaller species trembled. Humans had been the only ones willing to stand up to the Council's unfair taxes and cruel laws. Now the humans were gone. When Hyun-woo's ship finally reached Earth, he found a world that was already changing. General Woo Jin Lee met him at the spaceport. The general was a short, tough woman who had fought in 3 wars. Her eyes were hard as stone. "How long do we have?" she asked. "They will activate the barrier in 1 week," Hyun-woo replied. "After that, nothing gets in or out. Then we better use that week well." Across Earth, the news spread quickly. Some people panicked. They tried to leave the planet before the barrier went up. Others got angry and demanded war against the Council. But most people just went to work. Dr. Min-ho Jang, a quantum physicist, gathered his best students. "We have 1 week to learn everything we can about that barrier," he told them. "If they can build it, we can understand it. And if we can understand it, maybe we can break it." Engineer Yoon-ji Nam was already taking apart every piece of alien technology Earth had bought or traded for. "If we are going to be alone," she said to her team, "we need to learn how to build everything ourselves." Captain Ji-hai Choi stood on the deck of humanity's newest warship and looked up at the stars. Soon, those stars would be blocked from her forever. "Let them try to cage us," she whispered. "They have no idea what they just did." The barrier came down exactly 1 week later. It was invisible but impossible to cross. Earth was now completely alone in space. The Council believed they had solved their human problem. They thought humanity would slowly weaken and die in isolation. They were very, very wrong. Humanity had been alone before. They had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. They had always found a way to not just survive, but to grow stronger. The Council had just given them the biggest challenge in human history, and humans love challenges. In his office in Seoul, Hyun-woo Kim looked up at the night sky. The stars looked the same, but he knew everything had changed. The Council thought they had imprisoned Earth, but they had actually freed humanity from having to play by alien rules. "You picked the wrong enemy," he said to the stars. "We will see you again." He was right. They would. 3 months had passed since the barrier came down around Earth. The planet looked the same from space, but everything had changed. Cities that once buzzed with alien trade ships now worked on different projects. Factories that had made goods for export now made things Earth needed to survive alone. General Wu Jin Lee stood in the command center deep under the Rocky Mountains. Screens showed her information from all over the world. Every military base, every research center, every factory was now part of one giant plan. Earth was getting ready for something, though nobody was sure what yet. "Report," she said to Captain Ji-Hai Choi, who had just returned from testing Earth's defenses. "The barrier is perfect," Ji-Hai said. "Nothing gets through from either direction. No ships, no signals, no light beams. It is like a wall made of nothing." "Good," Wu Jin said. "That means they cannot see what we are doing in here." Down the hall, Dr. Minho Jang was having the best 3 months of his life. The Korean physicist had always been curious about how alien technology worked. Now he had permission to take apart anything he wanted. His laboratory was full of broken alien machines, computers, and weapons. "Look at this," he said to his assistant, showing her a small crystal. "This is how they make their power sources. It stores energy in ways our science said were impossible, but it is not magic. It follows rules. We just need to learn the rules." His team worked 20 hours a day. They had alien computers, communication devices, and pieces of spaceships. Every day they learned something new. Every day they got closer to understanding how to build their own versions. The biggest project was happening in the asteroid belt. Engineer Yoon-ji Nam floated in a spacesuit, watching robots build something amazing. She was creating a factory inside a large asteroid. The factory would be hidden from the barrier and could make anything Earth needed. "How long until it is ready?" asked her partner through the radio. 6 more months, Yoon-ji replied. "But when it is done, we can build ships faster than the Council ever could. We can make weapons they have never seen. We can turn every rock in this asteroid belt into a fortress." She looked toward where Earth hung in space, blocked by the invisible barrier. "Let them think we are trapped. We are just getting started." On Earth, other changes were happening. Dr. Hae-won Song was working on something the Council would have, called impossible. She was changing human DNA, not to make people look different, but to make them stronger, faster, and smarter. "The tests are going well," she told General Wu Jin. "The volunteers are showing increased strength and speed. Their reflexes are 3 times faster than normal. Most importantly, their brains are processing information much quicker." "Any side effects?" Wu Jin asked. "Some headaches at first, but they go away. The volunteers say they feel more awake than ever before. They can see patterns and solve problems they never could before." The first volunteer had been pilot Tae-min Yu, a young man who had always dreamed of flying in space. After the treatment, he could pilot ships in ways that seemed impossible. He could react to dangers before his instruments even detected them. "It is like I can feel the ship as part of my body," he told the other pilots. I know where every bolt and wire is. I can make it do things the designers never planned. But the most important changes were happening in the military. Commander Su-Jin Kang was creating new ways to fight. Human soldiers were learning to use alien weapons better than the aliens who built them. They studied videos of council troops and found weaknesses in how they fought. Aliens are stronger and tougher than us, Su-Jin explained to her trainees. But they have been the strongest species for so long that they forgot how to fight smart. They just use brute force. We will use their strength against them. The soldiers learned to move in ways aliens could not predict. They practiced fighting in low gravity, high gravity, and no gravity. They learned to use weapons with both hands and to fight in teams that confused alien tactics. Remember, Su-Jin told them, we are not trying to be stronger than them. We are trying to be better than them. Meanwhile, intelligence officer In Kyung-Joon was studying every piece of information Earth had about the Council. She read old diplomatic messages, trade agreements, and news reports. She was looking for patterns and weaknesses. Something does not make sense, she told her team. The Council says they banned us because we are too violent. But look at these reports. The Velkari started 5 wars in the last century. The Morthek enslaved 3 entire species, yet they are still council members. Her assistant nodded. What do you think the real reason is? Fear, In Kyung said. They were afraid of us, but not because we were violent. They were afraid because we were showing other species that the Council was not all-powerful. She pulled up a star map showing Council territory. Look at this. Every species in the Council controls the same territory they had 1,000 years ago. No one grows, no one changes, no one asks questions. Then humans show up, and in 50 years we go from 1 planet to 100. Colonies. We make friends with species the Council ignores. We solve problems the Council said could not be solved. So they banned us to protect their power? Exactly. And that means we are more dangerous to them than they want to admit. Dr. So-Young Park was working on a different kind of weapon. She was studying alien biology, learning exactly how each Council species worked. She found that Velkari could not see certain colors. Morthek had weak points in their metal skin. Velnash had breathing problems in low oxygen. Every species has evolved differently, she explained to the military leaders. That means every species has different weaknesses. If we know those weaknesses, we can design weapons and tactics that work against specific enemies. The work was slow, but important. Humans were learning to fight smarter, not just harder. As the months passed, Earth changed in ways the Council could never have imagined. The planet that had once depended on alien technology was now building its own. The species that had once followed Council rules was now making its own plans. In Seoul, Ambassador Hyun-Woo Kim read reports from around the world. Humans were not just surviving their isolation, they were using it to become something new and dangerous. The Council wanted to cage us, he said to himself. Instead, they gave us time to evolve. He looked up at the night sky, still blocked by the invisible barrier. Somewhere out there, the Council members were probably congratulating themselves for solving their human problem. They had no idea that humanity was just getting started. The cage they had built was about to become a weapon factory. And when Earth finally broke free, the galaxy would discover that isolating humans had not made them weaker. It had made them unstoppable. 5 years had passed since the barrier trapped Earth. The council members rarely thought about humans anymore. They assumed the isolated species was probably fighting among themselves or slowly dying out. This was exactly what humanity wanted them to think. Admiral Seok-Jin Han floated in the command center of the largest hidden base in human history. Built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, the facility was invisible to any sensors the Council might have. Around him, the asteroid belt buzzed with activity that would have shocked the galaxy. "Status report," Seok-Jin said to his officers. "Construction is ahead of schedule," replied his second-in-command. "We now have 47 warships completed, with 20 more being built each month. The new factories are working perfectly." Through the observation window, Seok-Jin watched massive robots moving through space. They carved metal from asteroids, refined it into pure materials, and fed it into construction bays. Ships grew like living things, built with technology that combined human innovation with alien science. These were not copies of Council ships. They were something completely new. Faster, stronger, and smarter than anything the galaxy had seen. Each ship was built for the specific purpose of fighting Council forces. "What about weapons testing?" Seok-Jin asked. "Dr. Yoonji Nam reports that the new plasma cannons can cut through Velkari armor like paper. The quantum torpedoes can phase through Morthek shields. Every weapon system has been designed to exploit specific alien weaknesses." On the hidden moon base, Dr. Hae-won Song was perfecting her greatest creation. The Enhanced Humans program had produced soldiers that seemed almost magical in their abilities. They were stronger, faster, and smarter than normal humans, but more importantly, they could work together in ways that confused alien military tactics. Pilot Taemin Yu had become the leader of the Enhanced Humans. His reflexes were now so fast that he could pilot ships in asteroid fields at speeds that would kill normal humans. His mind processed battle information faster than most computers. "How do you feel?" Dr. Hae-won asked him during his monthly checkup. "Like I was sleeping my whole life and just woke up," Taemin replied. "Everything is clearer now. I can see patterns in enemy movements 3 steps before they happen. I can feel when my ship is about to have problems before the instruments detect them." The Enhanced Humans were not just better pilots. They were better at everything. Commander Soo-Jin Kang had trained them to fight as a group mind. Each soldier knew what the others were thinking. They moved like dancers, flowing around enemies in ways that made alien tactics useless. "Show me the new combat formation," Soo-Jin said to her squad of enhanced soldiers. The 12 soldiers spread out across the training field. Then they began to move. It looked like chaos at first, but Soo-Jin could see the pattern. Each soldier covered the others while advancing. They communicated without words, using tiny gestures and movements. When they attacked the practice targets, it was like watching a storm tear through a forest. "Excellent," Soo-Jin said. "The Council has never faced anything like this. Their troops fight like individuals. Our people fight like a single organism. But the real breakthrough came from Dr. Bo-Ram Shin. a young physicist who had been working on the barrier problem. She had spent 5 years studying the quantum field that imprisoned Earth. Most scientists thought it was impossible to break. Boram thought differently. The barrier is not solid, she explained to Captain Young-Soo Lim. It is like a net made of energy. Very tight, very strong, but still a net. And every net has holes. What kind of holes? Young-Soo asked. Quantum holes. Places where the energy pattern has tiny gaps. If we can find those gaps and widen them, we can slip through. Boram had built a special ship designed to find and exploit these quantum gaps. It was small, fast, and covered with sensors that could detect energy patterns invisible to normal instruments. The first test will be dangerous, she warned. If I am wrong about the holes, the ship will be destroyed when it hits the barrier. And if you are right, Young-Soo asked, then we can finally see what the Council has been doing while we were trapped. The test took place on a dark night when Earth's moon blocked the barrier sensors. Boram's ship approached the edge of the solar system, slowly scanning for quantum gaps. The barrier looked like empty space, but the ship's instruments showed it as a wall of crackling energy. There, Boram whispered, pointing at her screen. A gap, just large enough for our ship. The ship twisted through space in ways that hurt to watch. It folded itself through dimensions, slipped between energy fields, and emerged on the other side of the barrier. For the first time in 5 years, a human ship was free in the galaxy. We did it, Young-Soo breathed. We are outside. But what they found shocked them both. The galaxy had changed while Earth was isolated. Council ships patrolled everywhere. Species that had once been free were now under tight control. The Zephyrians had been forced to pay huge taxes. The Velthari homeworld was being strip-mined for its crystals. They used our banishment as an excuse to tighten their control, Boram realized. They told everyone that helping humans was what made us dangerous. Now they punish anyone who asks for freedom. Agent In Kyung-jeon intercepted Council communications during the secret mission. What she learned made her angry. The Council had been lying about everything. They claimed humans had attacked innocent species, but the records showed the opposite. They said humans had stolen alien technology, but the truth was that aliens had begged for human help. They rewrote history, In Kyung told the intelligence team. Every good thing we did, they turned into a crime. Every species we helped, they now control. But the most shocking discovery came when Young-Soo's ship detected secret transmissions from rebel groups. Across the galaxy, oppressed species were organizing resistance movements, and many of them were asking the same question. Where were the humans? They remember us, Young-Soo said with amazement. After 5 years, they still remember that we tried to help them. The secret mission returned to Earth with information that changed everything. Humanity was not alone. They had allies across the galaxy, allies who were waiting for Earth to return. General Dong-hyun studied the intelligence reports in his underground command center. The former Council diplomat had become Earth's top strategic planner. His eyes burned with determination as he read about the oppression spreading across the galaxy. The council made a mistake, he told the assembled military leaders. They thought they were removing a threat. Instead, they created a symbol. Every oppressed species in the galaxy now sees humans as the ones who stood up to the council and survived. What do we do with this information? Admiral Seok Jin asked. We use it, Dong Hyun replied. We make contact with these rebel groups. We help them organize. We show them that Earth has not forgotten our friends. Colonel Kyung-mi Bae was put in charge of the new mission. She would take enhanced soldiers and advanced ships through the quantum gaps. Her job was to find the rebel groups and help them prepare for war. Remember, General Wu Jin told her before she left, we are not going back to the galaxy as conquerors. We are going back as liberators. As Kyung-mi's ships disappeared through the quantum barrier, humanity began its next phase of evolution. They had spent 5 years becoming stronger and smarter. Now they would spend the next phase becoming something the Council had never faced before. A species that fought not for themselves but for others. The Council had banished Earth to prevent humans from spreading dangerous ideas about freedom and equality. Instead, they had given humanity 5 years to perfect those ideas and turn them into weapons. Soon, the galaxy would learn that the Council had made the biggest mistake in their history. They had not caged the humans. They had just given them time to become unstoppable. The Council patrol ship Vengeful Storm moved slowly through the outer rim of Zephyrian space. Its captain, a massive Velkari warrior named Gorthak, was bored. For 5 years, this sector had been quiet. No human ships, no rebel activity, no problems. The captain did not know that human eyes were watching his every move. Colonel Kyung-mi Bae floated in the command center of her stealth ship, invisible to Council sensors. Her enhanced senses could track enemy movements from impossible distances. Through the quantum gap, she had brought 3 ships and 60 of Earth's best soldiers into the galaxy. Target confirmed, whispered her communications officer. Council patrol. Standard formation. No escort ships detected. Kyung-mi studied the enemy vessel through her scope. The Vengeful Storm was 10 times larger than her ship and heavily armed. In a normal fight, it would destroy her forces easily. But this would not be a normal fight. Execute capture protocol, she ordered. The human ships moved like ghosts through space. They approached from 3 different angles, using stealth technology developed during Earth's isolation. The Council ship never detected them until it was too late. What happened next lasted only 3 minutes, but it changed the galaxy forever. Human soldiers, enhanced and trained for this exact mission, boarded the Council ship through quantum phase ports. They moved through the ship like a coordinated storm, disabling weapons and capturing crew members before anyone could sound an alarm. Captain Gorthak found himself face to face with a human female who seemed to know exactly where he would move. Before he moved, every time he tried to attack, she was already somewhere else. Her soldiers flowed around his crew like water around rocks. Surrender, Kyung-mi said in perfect Velkari language. Your ship is taken. Your crew is safe. You can live through this if you cooperate. Impossible, Gorthak growled. Humans are banned. Humans are trapped. You cannot be here. Yet here we are, Kyungmi replied. The question is, do you want to learn why? Within hours, the captured council ship was broadcasting a message that reached every rebel group in the galaxy. The transmission was short but powerful. The humans have returned. Earth remembers its friends. The revolution begins now. On Zephyria Prime, Morthak, the rebel leader, received the message in his hidden base. The old alien's 4 arms shook with emotion as he watched human soldiers speaking his language and promising help. For 5 years, his people had suffered under increased council taxes and brutal enforcement. Many Zephyrians had given up hope. Is it real? Asked his second-in-command. It has to be, Morthak replied. Only humans would be crazy enough to break through a council barrier and start a war to help other species. Communications officer Da-Un Ro had spent months building a secret network of rebel contacts. From her ship hidden in an asteroid field, she coordinated with resistance groups across 12 star systems. Each group had been isolated, fighting alone against the Council. Now they learned they were part of something much larger. Zephyrian rebels report they can disable the tax collection stations, Da-Yun told Kyungmi. Velthari crystal miners say they can shut down the strip mining operations. The Kethmori want to sabotage council communication arrays. Coordinate the timing, Kyungmi ordered. When we hit the council, it needs to be everywhere at once. Strategist Junho Kwon worked with rebel leaders to plan attacks that would cripple council control without harming innocent people. The key was precision. Every strike had to weaken the council while showing oppressed species that the rebellion was about liberation, not destruction. The council rules through fear, Junho explained to the rebel commanders during a secret meeting. They make people believe resistance is hopeless. We will show them that resistance is not only possible, but successful. Medical Officer Ye Jin. CEO became the rebellion's secret weapon in a way no one expected. She used advanced human medical technology to save rebel leaders who had been injured by council forces. When a Zephyrian commander was dying from poison gas, Ye Jin's treatment saved his life. When Velthari miners were hurt in cave-ins, human medicine healed them in days instead of months. Why do you help us? Asked a wounded Kethmori pilot. Because it is the right thing to do, Ye Jin replied simply. Humans help their friends. Word of human medical miracles spread through the underground networks. Species that had never trusted each other began working together because they all trusted the humans. The rebellion was becoming something the Council had never faced, a united alliance of different species fighting for the same goal. But the Council remained unaware of the growing threat. They had grown comfortable with their power and lazy in their security. Captain Young-Soo Lim used this overconfidence against them when he led a daring raid on a Council intelligence station. Remember, he told his team as they prepared to attack, we need their computers intact. The information inside will tell us everything about Council weaknesses. The raid was perfect. Human soldiers moved through the station like smoke, avoiding guards and disabling security systems. They copied every file, every communication, every secret plan the Council had made in the past 5 years. Agent In Kyung-joon spent weeks analyzing the stolen data. What she found was both shocking and encouraging. The council was weaker than they pretended to be. Several member species were unhappy with council leadership. Some were secretly planning to leave the alliance. "Look at this," she told her intelligence team, pointing at financial records. "The Morthek have been stealing from the common treasury. The Velnash have been selling weapons to pirates. The council is not the unified force they claim to be." More importantly, the files revealed that the council was afraid. They had increased patrols and tightened security because they knew rebellion was growing. They just did not know how organized it had become. "They are preparing for war," In Kyung realized. "They know something is coming, but they think it will be small rebel groups acting alone. They have no idea that Earth is coordinating everything." The breakthrough intelligence allowed Junho to plan the rebellion's first major operation. Instead of random attacks, the rebels would strike multiple council strongholds simultaneously. Each attack would be precisely timed to create maximum confusion and minimum casualties. "We will hit them where they least expect it," Junho explained to the Rebel Alliance. "Not their military bases, but their control centers, the places where they coordinate oppression across the galaxy." As the plans took shape, more species joined the rebellion. The crystalline Velthari used their natural abilities to disrupt council communication networks. The amphibious Keth Mori attacked underwater council bases. Even some council member species began secretly supporting the rebellion. Colonel Kyung Mi watched from her command ship as the rebel network grew stronger each day. Human advisors were now working with resistance groups in over 50 star systems. Each group was small, but together they formed an army that could challenge council control. "How many ships can we count on for the first major attack?" she asked. "Dae-Yoon. Over 300 rebel vessels," Dae-Yoon replied, "plus our own fleet coming through the quantum barriers. The Council has never faced a coordinated attack of this size. But the most important change was happening in the hearts and minds of oppressed people across the galaxy. For years, they had accepted Council rule because they believed resistance was impossible. Now they had proof that the Council could be defeated. Humans had done the impossible by breaking through the barrier. If humans could do that, then maybe freedom was possible too. On distant worlds, people who had never heard of Earth began telling stories about the brave humans who came back to help their friends. Children played games where they pretended to be human soldiers fighting for justice. Even some council citizens began to question whether their government was really protecting the galaxy or just protecting its own power. The council had created the barrier to stop humans from spreading dangerous ideas about freedom and equality. Instead, they had given humanity 5 years to perfect those ideas and turn them into a revolution that was already spreading across the galaxy. Soon, the Council would discover that their worst fears were coming true. The humans were back. They were not alone, and they were here to free everyone. The first coordinated rebel attack struck 17 Council facilities at exactly the same time. On Velthari Prime, crystal miners used sonic weapons to collapse tax collection buildings. In Zephyrian space, rebel fighters destroyed patrol ships with precision strikes. Across the galaxy, the Council suddenly found themselves fighting battles they had not seen coming. Colonel Kyung-mi Bae watched the results from her command ship hidden in deep space. Reports flowed in from every rebel cell. The attacks were working perfectly. Council forces were confused and scattered, unable to coordinate a response because their communication networks were under attack. "Status report from all sectors," she ordered. Communications Officer Yun Ro read from her screens. "Zephyrian rebels have taken 3 tax stations without casualties. Velthari miners have shut down the strip mining operation on their moon. Keth-Mori forces have disabled the underwater listening posts in the Outer Rim. But the most important success came from an unexpected source. Some council member species had grown tired of the Alliance's brutality and corruption. When the rebellion began, they did not fight against it. Instead, they quietly stopped helping council forces. The Silthani have withdrawn their patrol ships," Yun continued. "The Korvek refused to send reinforcements to threatened sectors. Even some Velkari commanders are questioning their orders." This was exactly what strategist Junho Kwon had hoped for. His plans did not depend on destroying the council through force. Instead, the rebellion would show that council control was an illusion. When enough people stopped believing in that illusion, the council would collapse from within. The key is to never give them time to reorganize, Junho explained to the rebel leaders during a secret conference. "We hit them, then disappear before they can respond. We help oppressed people free themselves, then move to the next target. The council cannot fight an enemy they cannot find." Medical officer Yejin Seo had become famous throughout the rebellion. Her mobile hospital ship moved from battle to battle, healing wounded fighters from all species. But more importantly, she treated council prisoners with the same care she gave rebels. This confused and impressed many council soldiers. "Why do you heal our enemies?" asked a captured Velkari officer, as Yejin treated his broken arm. "You are not my enemy," she replied while setting the bone. "Your leaders are the enemy. You are just a soldier following orders. When this war is over, we will need good soldiers to help build a better galaxy." The Velkari officer stared at her in amazement. No council species had ever treated prisoners this well. Many captured soldiers began to question whether they were fighting for the right side. Word of human compassion spread through council ranks. Soldiers who had been told that humans were violent monsters discovered that human medics saved their lives. Pilots who crashed in rebel territory expected to be tortured, but instead found themselves healed and released. This psychological warfare was more effective than weapons. Council morale began to crack as soldiers realized they were fighting against people who were trying to help the galaxy, not destroy it. But the council leadership was not ready to surrender. High Judge Thex Moran called an emergency session to discuss the rebellion. The massive alien paced back and forth in the crystal chamber, his 4 red eyes burning with anger. "This is impossible," he growled. "The humans are trapped behind the barrier. They cannot be organizing these attacks." "Perhaps some escaped before the barrier was completed," suggested Velnash, though her insect-like wings trembled with uncertainty. "No," said Morthek, his metal skin reflecting the chamber lights. "We monitored every ship that left Earth. The barrier is perfect. These attacks must be coming from other sources." This was the Council's greatest weakness. They could not imagine that humans had broken through their barrier because they believed their own propaganda about human limitations. Their arrogance blinded them to the truth. Agent In Kyung-jeon used this blindness against them. Her spy network had infiltrated council communications, and she fed them false information that supported their incorrect assumptions. Reports blamed the attacks on rogue council members, alien criminals, and political extremists, anything except the truth. Let them believe their own lies, In Kyung told her team. As long as they think the rebellion is random chaos instead of organized resistance, they will make the wrong decisions. The council's wrong decisions played perfectly into rebel hands. They sent massive fleets to fight enemies that were not there. They arrested loyal citizens suspected of being rebels. They increased oppression of species that had not yet joined the rebellion, pushing them into rebel arms. Captain Young-Soo Lim took advantage of council confusion to strike at their most important target, the Central Data Archive on Nexus Prime. This massive computer contained records of every council crime, every secret deal, and every hidden weakness. If we can steal those files, he told his strike team, we can prove to the galaxy exactly what the council has been doing. The mission was incredibly dangerous. Nexus Prime was the most heavily defended planet in council space. But Young-Soo's team had advantages no council force had ever faced. Enhanced reflexes, quantum phase technology, and most importantly, they knew exactly where to strike because In Kyung's spies had provided detailed intelligence. The infiltration took place during a council celebration honoring their victory over human rebels. While council leaders celebrated defeating an enemy they had not even found, human soldiers moved through their most secure facility like ghosts. Dr. Bo-ram Shin had designed special equipment for the mission. Her quantum phase devices allowed the strike team to walk through walls, bypass security systems, and access the data archives without triggering alarms. Remember, Young-Soo whispered to his team as they approached the archive chamber, we need to copy everything, not just the files about humans. Every species in the galaxy deserves to know what the Council has done. The data theft was perfect. Terabytes of information flowed into human storage devices. Council war crimes, illegal experiments, secret slave trading, assassination orders, bribery records, and blackmail files. Everything the Council had hidden for centuries was now in rebel hands. But the real breakthrough came when the team discovered something unexpected in the deepest archives. The Council had not just banned humanity from the galaxy. They had done the same thing to other species throughout history. Dozens of civilizations had been isolated, contained, or destroyed because they threatened Council power. "Look at this," whispered Bo-ram as she read through the historical files. The Keth-Mori were almost banned 50 years ago for asking too many questions about Council science. The Velthari were threatened with isolation for spreading dangerous ideas about artistic freedom. The pattern was clear. Any species that grew too strong, too smart, or too independent was eliminated. Humanity was just the latest in a long line of Council victims. "We need to share this with everyone," Young-Soo said. "Every species in the galaxy needs to know that. The Council sees them as potential threats to be controlled or destroyed. When the stolen data was broadcast across rebel networks, the revolution exploded into something much larger. Species that had been loyal to the Council discovered that their own leaders had planned to destroy them if they became too successful. Council member species learned that they were not partners, but prisoners waiting for their own banishment. The crystalline Velthari were shocked to discover that the Council planned to strip mine their entire homeworld once the current crystals were exhausted. The amphibious Keth Mori found records of Council plans to drain their ocean worlds for agricultural development. Even some Velkari learned that their own leaders had agreed to sacrifice outer colonies to maintain power. Rebellions erupted on over 200 worlds in a single week. Council forces found themselves fighting their own member species, their former subjects, and mysterious human advisors all at the same time. The galaxy was falling apart, and the Council had no idea how to stop it. From her command ship, Colonel Kyungmi watched the chaos spread through Council space. Every day brought news of new rebellions, new allies, and new victories. The revolution had become unstoppable because it was fighting for something the Council could never understand, the idea that all species deserved freedom. How long until the main fleet arrives from Earth? She asked her communications officer. Admiral Jun-Sik An reports that the first wave will come through the quantum barriers in 3 days, Da-Un replied. After that, the Council will discover that the rebellion was just the beginning. The Council had spent 5 years congratulating themselves for solving their human problem. Soon they would learn that instead of caging humanity, they had given Earth time to build the largest liberation army in galactic history. The revolution was just getting started. The quantum barriers around Earth suddenly blazed with energy as something massive pushed through from the other side. Council sensors across the galaxy detected the disturbance, but their computers could not understand what they were seeing. Energy readings were off the charts. Mass displacement calculations made no sense. Whatever was coming through the barrier was bigger than anything in their databases. Admiral Jun-Sik An stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Indomitable, the largest warship humanity had ever built. Around him in space, over 200. Human vessels emerged from quantum phase like ghosts becoming solid. These ships bore no resemblance to the vessels that had left Earth years earlier. They were sleek, deadly, and built with technology that combined human innovation with 5 years of advanced development. "All ships report ready for combat," announced his communications officer. Fleet Admiral Gi-tae Park confirms that the second wave is standing by. "Good," Jun-Sik replied, studying the tactical displays showing Council fleet positions. "It is time the galaxy learned that Earth kept its promises. The human fleet's first target was a Council stronghold in the Velnash system where rebels had been fighting for weeks without support. Council reinforcements were crushing the rebellion with overwhelming force, executing prisoners and destroying entire settlements. Colonel Mi-young Cho led the ground assault from her enhanced command ship. Her soldiers had trained for 5 years for this moment. They were faster, stronger, and smarter than any enemy they would face. More importantly, they were fighting for something bigger than themselves. "Remember the mission," she told her troops as they prepared to board enemy stations. "We are here to liberate, not conquer. Show them what human justice looks like." The attack on the Banished system lasted 6 hours and changed galactic warfare forever. Human ships moved through space in formations that defied Council understanding. They appeared and disappeared using quantum phase technology. They coordinated attacks with precision that seemed impossible. Tactical Officer Chang Woo-yoon watched from his command center as human fighters danced around massive Council battleships. The enhanced pilots moved their ships like extensions of their own bodies, reacting to dangers before sensors could detect them. "Enemy flagship is attempting to retreat," reported his sensor operator. "Let them go," Chang Woo ordered. "But make sure they know exactly who defeated them." As Council ships fled the system, Chang Woo broadcast a message that reached every communication network in the galaxy. "The humans have returned. We remember our friends. We remember our enemies. The galaxy will be free." The message was signed by the Earth Liberation Fleet and included coordinates for rebels seeking support. Within hours, requests for help flooded in from across the galaxy. But the most shocking moment came when human ground forces stormed the prison camps where rebels had been held. Combat medic Soo-hyun No was among the first to reach the captured fighters. What she found made her both angry and determined. Council forces had tortured prisoners to learn about human involvement in the rebellion. Rebels had been beaten, starved, and worse because they refused to reveal human secrets. Many had died protecting information that could have led to Earth. "Why did you not tell them about us?" Soo-hyun asked a wounded Zephyrian fighter as she treated his injuries. "Because you came back for us," the alien replied weakly. "For 5 years we hoped. Some gave up, but we never forgot that humans keep their promises. We knew you would return." The rescued prisoners told stories that spread through the Liberation Fleet. Species across the galaxy had suffered increased oppression because the Council blamed them for human influence. Rebels had been hunted, families had been broken apart, and entire worlds had been punished because their people remembered human friendship. "They made our liberation personal," Admiral Jun-sik told his officers. "Every crime they committed against our friends is a crime against humanity." Captain Hyojin Moon proved this when she captured a Council command ship intact. Her boarding team moved through the enemy vessel like a perfectly coordinated storm. Council troops found themselves fighting opponents who seemed to know their every move before they made it. The command ship's captain, a massive Velkari named Grothak, surrendered when he realized resistance was hopeless. But instead of execution, he found himself face to face with humans who treated him with respect. "Why do you not kill me?" he asked Hyojin as her soldiers secured his crew. "We would kill you." "That is the difference between us," Hyojin replied. "We fight for justice, not revenge. Your crew will be treated well. Your wounded will be healed. When this war ends, you will be free to choose your own future." The captured command ship provided something more valuable than weapons or information. It provided proof of human character. Council propaganda had painted humans as violent monsters who would destroy the galaxy if given the chance. Instead, Captive council soldiers discovered that humans fought with honor and treated enemies with mercy. News of human conduct spread through council ranks faster than battle reports. Soldiers who had been told they were fighting to save civilization found themselves questioning who the real villains were. This psychological impact was devastating to council morale. Many units began surrendering rather than fighting to the death. Some council ships changed sides completely, joining the Liberation Fleet with their crews and weapons. Fleet Admiral Guy Park coordinated the expanding war from his flagship, the Earth Defense Ship Determination. His tactical board showed Liberation forces advancing on dozens of fronts. Each victory brought more allies to the cause. "Status report on Operation Freedom Strike," he requested. Squadron leader Ah Young Kim reports successful liberation of the Keth Mori homeworld, his aide announced. Resistance was minimal. Most council forces surrendered when they realized they were fighting enhanced human pilots. Ah Young had become legendary among both human and alien forces. Her fighter squadron could defeat council formations 10 times their size, but more importantly, they did it while protecting civilian areas and minimizing casualties. The council trains their pilots to rely on superior technology, she explained to her wingmen. They never learned to fight smart because they never had to. We will show them what human pilots can do. Her tactics combined human creativity with alien technology in ways that seemed impossible. She used gravity wells to slingshot around planets, employed asteroid fields as cover, and coordinated with ground forces to create three-dimensional battle strategies. General Myung-Jun Ryu led the liberation of entire star systems with similar innovation. His ground forces moved like water, flowing around enemy strong points and striking where council defenses were weakest. But his greatest weapon was not firepower. It was the trust of local populations. "We are not here to replace council rule with human rule," he told liberated populations. "We are here to help you rule yourselves." This message resonated across the galaxy. Species that had been oppressed for generations suddenly had hope for real freedom. They joined the liberation forces not as subjects, but as partners. Intelligence. Chief Wanho Jang coordinated the systematic dismantling of council power structures. His teams captured communication centers, data archives, and command facilities. But they did not destroy these resources. Instead, they turned them over to liberated populations. "Information belongs to the people," Wanho explained to his operatives. "Every species has the right to know what was done in their name." The liberated. Archives revealed the full scope of council crimes. Secret police networks, illegal experiments, slave trading operations, and assassination programs. The evidence was overwhelming and impossible to deny. Field Commander Hyo-Sung Lee led the advance toward Nexus Prime itself, the heart of council power. His forces moved through space like an unstoppable tide, liberating worlds and gathering allies with each victory. But the most powerful moment came when heavy weapons specialist Yena Kang broadcast a message from the ruins of a council torture facility. Behind her, freed prisoners from dozens of species stood together, showing their scars and telling their stories. "This is what the council calls order," Yena said, gesturing to the broken bodies and shattered minds around her. This is what they did to maintain their power. The galaxy deserves better. The broadcast reached every world in Council space. Citizens who had believed Council propaganda about maintaining peace and stability saw the truth with their own eyes. The liberation movement was not just about freedom. It was about basic decency. From the bridge of her command ship, Captain Sunmi Jo watched as more Council fleets either surrendered or joined the liberation forces. The war was becoming a landslide as species after species chose freedom over oppression. "How long until we reach Nexus Prime?" she asked her navigation officer. 3 days at current speed," came the reply. "But Admiral June 6 suggests we slow down. We are receiving surrender requests from Council member species who want to negotiate before we arrive." The Council that had ruled the galaxy for centuries was falling apart. Some members were trying to save themselves by betraying their allies. Others were fleeing to unknown regions of space. A few were preparing for a final battle they could not win. But humanity was not interested in conquest or revenge. As the Liberation Fleet approached the cap, the crystal spires of Nexus Prime trembled as the combined Liberation Fleet entered the home system of galactic government. Over 3,000 ships from dozens of species formed the largest armada in recorded history. At its center flew the human vessels that had sparked the revolution, their hulls gleaming with technology the Council had never imagined possible. Fleet Admiral Gite Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the planet where humanity had been sentenced to isolation 5 years earlier. The irony was not lost on him. The Council had gathered here to banish Earth. Now Earth had returned with an army of liberated species to banish the Council. "Status of planetary defenses?" he asked his tactical officer. "Minimal resistance," came the reply. "Most Council defense. Fleets have already surrendered or defected. The remaining forces are requesting terms for negotiation." This was not the climactic battle anyone had expected. The war for galactic freedom was ending not with explosions and destruction, but with the Council's own forces abandoning their leaders. Squadron leader Ah Young Kim led fighter patrols around the planet, but found skies empty of enemy ships. Council pilots who had once hunted rebels were now landing at liberation bases and asking to join the fight for freedom. "This is strange," she told her wingmen. "We prepared for the biggest battle in galactic history, but the enemy has already given up." The truth was that the Council had lost the war long before the Liberation Fleet arrived. When the galaxy learned about secret torture facilities, illegal experiments, and planned genocides, public support for Council rule collapsed. Even Council member species began arresting their own leaders and declaring independence. General Myung-jun Ryu coordinated the peaceful occupation of Nexus Prime with representatives from liberated worlds. His soldiers were met not with resistance, but with celebrations. Council citizens threw flowers and cheered as human troops marched through the capital city. 5 years ago, they called us monsters, observed Colonel Mi-young Cho as children ran up to touch her soldiers' armor. Now they see us as liberators. That is because we kept our promises, Myung-jun replied. We said we would return for our friends. We said we would free the oppressed. We said we would bring justice. The galaxy remembers that humans keep their word. Intelligence Chief Won-Ho Jang led teams into the Council archives, securing evidence of crimes that spanned centuries. What they found was worse than anyone had imagined. The Council had not just oppressed other species. They had systematically planned the extinction of any civilization that might challenge their power. "Look at this," Won-Ho told Admiral Gi-tae, showing him classified files. "They have been planning to destroy the Velthari for 50 years. The crystal beings were getting too advanced in dimensional technology. The Council decided they needed to be eliminated before they became a threat." File after file revealed similar plans. The amphibious Keth Mori were scheduled for population reduction because their rapid breeding worried Council planners. The Zephyrians faced forced sterilization to prevent their species from spreading beyond their home system. Humanity was not unique, Won-Ho continued. We were just the first species strong enough to resist. If we had not broken free, dozens of other species would have been destroyed in the coming decades. This information was immediately shared with the galaxy through liberated communication networks. The revelation that the Council had planned. Multiple genocides turned their remaining supporters into enemies. Even die-hard Council loyalists could not defend leaders who had plotted the murder of entire civilizations. Field Commander Hyo-Sung Lee led the siege of the Council chambers themselves, but found the building largely abandoned. Most Council members had fled when they realized the war was lost. Only a few diehards remained, barricaded in the innermost chambers. "This is your final chance," Hyo-Sung announced through the building's communication system. "Surrender now, and face fair trial. Continue to resist and face the consequences of your crimes." Heavy weapons specialist Yana Kang stood ready to breach the chamber doors, but the massive weapons proved unnecessary. After hours of debate, the remaining Council members opened the doors and walked out with their hands raised. High Judge Thex Moran, the alien who had sentenced humanity to isolation, looked very different from the arrogant figure who had condemned Earth. His 4 red eyes were dim with defeat. His armored skin was cracked with stress. The mighty judge had become a broken, old alien facing justice for his crimes. "You cannot do this," he said weakly, as human soldiers placed him under arrest. "The Council has ruled for 1,000 years. The galaxy needs us to maintain order." Captain Sun-Mi-jo looked down at the former judge with a mixture of pity and disgust. "The galaxy tried your version of order. Now it will try something better." The capture of Council leadership marked the end of the war, but the beginning of something more important. Representatives from liberated species gathered in the same chambers where humanity had been condemned. This time, they came not to judge, but to build. Diplomat Sang-Hoon Kim had spent months preparing for this moment. The former Council chamber was redesigned to accommodate dozens of different species. Translation equipment allowed everyone to communicate. Most importantly, every species had an equal voice, regardless of size or military power. "We gather not as conquerors and conquered," Sang-Hoon announced to the assembly, "but as equals working toward a common future. The age of domination is over. The age of cooperation begins now." The new galactic constitution was written over. Weeks of careful negotiation, Every species contributed ideas. Every concern was addressed. The document that emerged was nothing like the Council's authoritarian rules. It was a charter of rights and freedoms that protected the weak while encouraging the strong to help rather than dominate. President Yoon Seo-choi was elected by the Assembly to serve as the first leader of the new galactic government. She was chosen not because Earth had led the liberation, but because humans had proven they would sacrifice for others rather than rule over them. "Power corrupts," she said in her acceptance speech. "That is why this position will rotate every 2 years between different species. That is why every decision must be approved by majority vote. That is why no single species will ever again dominate the galaxy." Vice Admiral Tae-ho Shin oversaw the transition of former Council worlds to self-governance. Many species had never ruled themselves and needed help learning democratic processes. Human advisors worked alongside local leaders, teaching rather than commanding. "Remember," Tae-ho told his transition teams, "we are here to help them find their own way, not to impose our way. Every species must choose its own future." Dr. Sojin Yu established medical and technological sharing programs that revolutionized galactic civilization. Advanced human medicine was combined with alien healing techniques. Human engineering merged with alien science to create innovations none could have achieved alone. "This is what the Council feared most," she explained, to the research teams. Not human technology, but human cooperation. They knew that if species worked together instead of competing, their monopoly on power would end. Ambassador Jae-hyun Nam worked with former Council species to establish truth and reconciliation programs. Many aliens had committed crimes while following Council orders. The question was how to achieve justice without destroying entire civilizations. "Some crimes require punishment," Jae-hyun explained to the justice tribunals. "But most people were victims of the system they served. We must punish the leaders who gave evil orders while helping the followers find better paths." Director Hwa Young Song oversaw the dismantling of oppressive institutions while building new ones based on freedom and equality. Council secret police were disbanded. Torture facilities were destroyed. Surveillance networks were replaced with transparent communication systems. But the most important change was not in laws or institutions. It was in hearts and minds. For the first time in galactic history, different species saw each other as partners rather than threats. The fear and mistrust that had enabled Council rule were replaced with hope and cooperation. Admiral Hyun-woo Kim, the diplomat who had stood alone before the Council 5 years earlier, returned to Nexus Prime as Earth's representative to the new Galactic Assembly. He stood in the same chamber where he had been condemned, but now it was filled with friends instead of enemies. "5 years ago you banished humanity because you feared what we represented," he said to the Assembly. "You feared species that would not accept limits on their freedom. You feared civilizations that would help the weak instead of exploiting them. You feared people who believed that cooperation was stronger than domination." He gestured to the mixed species delegates around him. "You were right to be afraid. Those ideas have freed the galaxy. But you were wrong to think you could stop them. Freedom is not a human idea. It is a universal truth that lives in the heart of every thinking being. The quantum barrier around Earth was finally lifted in a ceremony attended by representatives from every liberated world. As the invisible prison dissolved, children from dozens of species watched human ships emerge into open space for the first time in 5 years. "Look how far we have come," President Yoon Seo said as she watched the celebration. 5 years ago, we were criminals sentenced to 10 years had passed since the fall of the Council, and the galaxy had become something unrecognizable from the dark empire that once ruled through fear. On the former capital world of Nexus Prime, species that had once been enemies now worked side by side in the bustling markets and research centers of the new galactic capital. President Sang-Hoon Kim walked through the redesigned city center, marveling at how much had changed. The crystal spires that once housed council oppression now served as libraries, schools, and cultural centers. Where armed guards had once patrolled, children from dozens of species played together in parks designed by joint committees of alien architects. "Hard to believe this is the same place where they condemned us," said Vice Admiral Tae-ho Shin, who was visiting to coordinate the latest exploration mission. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we had never been banished." "We would never have become what we needed to be," Sang-Hoon replied. "The Council thought they were punishing us. Instead, they gave us the greatest gift possible, time to evolve into something better than conquerors." The new galactic government bore no resemblance to the council that had replaced it. Every major decision required approval from multiple species. Leadership rotated regularly to prevent any group from accumulating too much power. Most importantly, the government's primary function was not to rule, but to coordinate cooperation between independent civilizations. Dr. So-Jin Yu had just finished presenting her latest medical breakthrough to the Interspecies Assembly. Her research teams, which included scientists from over 20 different worlds, had developed treatments that worked across multiple biologies. Diseases that had plagued individual species for millennia were being cured through cooperative research. Tucker. Zephyrian children who were dying when we first met them are now healthy adults with children of their own, she told the assembly. The Velthari have not just cleaned their oceans, but turned them into the most beautiful waters in the galaxy. The Kethmori have developed aquaculture techniques that can feed billions. These medical and technological advances represented something the Council had never achieved despite ruling for centuries. By encouraging cooperation instead of competition, the new galaxy was advancing faster than ever before. Ambassador Jae-hyun Nam worked with exploration teams that included members from dozens of species. Together, they were mapping unknown regions of space and making contact with civilizations the Council had never found. Each new species they encountered was welcomed as an equal partner rather than a potential subject or threat. Today we made contact with the Silthari, a silicon-based species from the galactic rim, Jae-hyun reported to the assembly. They were amazed to learn about our cooperative government. Their previous contacts with this region involved council tax collectors and military threats. The exploration program represented humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization. Not advanced technology or military might, but the simple idea that meeting new people was an opportunity for friendship, rather than conquest. Director. Hua Young Song oversaw cultural exchange programs that were transforming how species understood each other. Zephyrian music was being performed on human instruments. Velthari crystal art decorated buildings on dozens of worlds. Keth Mori poetry was translated into hundreds of languages. Culture is the bridge between different biologies, she explained to a gathering of artists and writers. When we appreciate each other's beauty, we stop seeing differences as threats and start seeing them as gifts. But the most remarkable change was visible in the former council species themselves. The Velkari, once the council's primary enforcers, had become leading advocates for peaceful conflict resolution. Their warrior culture had evolved into a philosophy of protecting the weak rather than dominating them. Velnash pilots, who had once hunted rebels, now led search and rescue missions across the galaxy. Their natural flying abilities, combined with human coordination techniques, had created the most effective emergency response teams in galactic history. Even the Morthek, the metallic tree-like beings who had been the Council's most ruthless administrators, had found new purpose. Their natural organizational abilities were now used to coordinate relief efforts, infrastructure projects, and educational programs. Redemption is possible for anyone willing to choose a better path, said Admiral Hyun-Woo Kim as he reviewed reports from former Council worlds. Some of our greatest allies today were our worst enemies 10 years ago. The justice programs established after the war had been surprisingly successful. Most council criminals had been given opportunities to make amends through service rather than simply being punished. Many former oppressors had become champions of the freedom they had once tried to destroy. High Judge Thex Moran, the alien who had condemned humanity to isolation, now worked in refugee resettlement programs. His knowledge of galactic law was being used to help displaced populations find new homes. The transformation was so complete that many refugees specifically requested his assistance. I spent my life serving a system built on fear and hatred, he said during a recent interview. Now I have the chance to serve something built on hope and love. It is the difference between being a destroyer and being a healer. The economic transformation had been equally dramatic. Under council rule, resources had flowed upward to powerful species while weaker civilizations struggled to survive. The new system emphasized sharing and mutual support. Engineer Yoon-ji Nam had designed manufacturing networks that spanned multiple star systems. Instead of competing for resources, species pooled their unique abilities to create things none could build alone. Velthari crystals powered machines built with Kethmori biotechnology and assembled by human automation. Cooperation is not just morally right, she explained to economics students. It is also more efficient. When everyone contributes their best abilities, everyone benefits from the results. The space around Earth had become a symbol of the new galaxy. The quantum barriers that once imprisoned humanity were now memorial monuments. Ships from dozens of species passed freely through the system, many stopping to visit the museums that told the story of the Liberation War. Captain Young-Soo Lim, now an admiral, often gave tours to young people from across the galaxy. They wanted to understand how such a dramatic change had been possible. The secret was not human technology or military power, he would tell them. The secret was that we refused to accept that oppression was inevitable. When enough people stop believing in an unjust system, that system collapses. But the greatest monument to change was not built on any world. It was the mixed crews that now operated most galactic vessels. Human pilots worked alongside Zephyrian navigators, Velthari engineers, and Keth Mori biologists. These teams could accomplish missions that single-species crews had never imagined possible. Squadron leader Ah Young Kim commanded such a mixed crew on exploration missions to the galactic edge. Her ship, the Unity, carried representatives from 15 different species as they mapped unknown regions and searched for new civilizations to welcome into the galactic community. Every day we discover something new, she told her crew during their latest mission briefing. New worlds, new species, new ways of thinking. The galaxy is so much bigger and more wonderful than the Council ever let us imagine. Dr. Haewon Song continued her research into genetic enhancement, but now applied it to helping species adapt to new environments rather than creating super soldiers. Former Council slaves were being helped to recover from genetic damage. New colonies were being populated by people enhanced to thrive in extreme conditions. The same science that created warriors for liberation now creates healers for exploration, she explained to her research team. Technology is not good or evil. It depends on the intentions of those who use it. Medical officer Yejin Seo had established hospitals throughout the galaxy where doctors from all species worked together. Techniques that had once been species-specific secrets were now shared freely. The result was medical care that surpassed anything the galaxy had known before. Healing is universal, she said, while training a mixed class of medical students. Pain is the same whether you are carbon-based or silicon-based. Hope feels the same regardless of how many limbs you have. We all want the same things: health, safety, and the chance to live freely. As President Sang-hoon's term neared its end, he prepared to hand leadership to a Velthari crystal being named Harmony of Light. The transition ceremonies had become celebrations of unity, with species from across the galaxy gathering to witness the peaceful transfer of power. 10 years ago, we were criminals banished to the edge of space, Sang-hoon said in his farewell address. Today, we are partners in the greatest civilization the galaxy has ever seen. We achieved this not through conquest, but through the simple belief that every thinking being deserves freedom. The ceremony was broadcast to every world in the new Galactic Alliance. Children who had never known oppression watched as power changed hands without violence, without corruption, without fear. Admiral Hyun-woo Kim stood in the same chamber where he had once been condemned. But now it was filled with friends instead of judges. Representatives from over 300 species had gathered to celebrate not just the change in leadership,